can be the heroes on the Wheaties box.
Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe has always been a place of larger-than-life heroes, men and women who stand for justice, hope, and self-sacrifice. But Thunderbolts 2025 represents a bold shift in that narrative. Instead of focusing on noble champions like Captain America or Iron Man, Marvel dives deep into the shadows of morality, presenting characters who have been outcasts, assassins, and manipulated soldiers. The film's central premise isn't about saving the world with clean heroics. It's about redemption, guilt, and the blurred line between right and wrong. With the Thunderbolts, Marvel gives its audience something rare, a team of flawed individuals seeking purpose in a world that has already judged them. At the heart of this movie lies the concept of anti-heroism. The idea that not every savior wears a bright costume or follows the rules. These characters have made mistakes, some unforgivable, yet they still find themselves fighting for something greater than themselves. The audience meets a lineup that includes Yelena Belova, the former Black Widow assassin haunted by her past; Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier whose decades of brainwashing have left scars deeper than any wound; Red Guardian, the brash yet lovable super soldier of the Soviet era; and Taskmaster, the silent mimic with a mind fractured by control. They are not perfect. They are broken, complex, and beautifully human. The brilliance of Thunderbolts lies in how it doesn't try to redeem them instantly. It lets their flaws breathe. It acknowledges that trauma doesn't vanish overnight and that morality is not binary. Unlike the Avengers, who were bound by loyalty and idealism, the Thunderbolts are bound by circumstance. They are forced into missions orchestrated by Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, a manipulative strategist who operates in the moral gray zone. Her motives aren't altruistic. They're political. She forms this team not to inspire hope but to control chaos. In many ways, she mirrors Nick Fury, but her approach is colder and far more pragmatic. Throughout the movie, the theme of return resonates in every frame. Each character is returning, not just to action, but to the inner conflict that defines them. Yelena returns to the field not as Natasha's shadow, but as her own person. Her arc symbolizes the fight for identity in a world that once turned her into a weapon. Bucky returns to leadership, hesitant yet determined, carrying the emotional burden of a man who has lived several lives but never found peace in any of them. Red Guardian returns to relevance, trying to prove he is still the hero he once claimed to be. Even Taskmaster, whose silence speaks louder than words, returns to autonomy, no longer a puppet, but a warrior rediscovering choice. Marvel's decision to spotlight these characters is not accidental. The cinematic landscape has evolved and audiences crave complexity. They want to see characters who mirror real emotions: fear, guilt, confusion, defiance. The Thunderbolts embody this evolution. They are not symbols of perfection. They are symbols of perseverance. Each scene challenges the idea that heroism must be pure. When Yelena pulls the trigger, when Bucky hesitates before taking a life, when Red Guardian questions his loyalty, those moments reveal that saving the world can come with moral compromise. And that's what makes Thunderbolts so powerful. The film also explores the consequences of being an anti-hero in a world dominated by propaganda and politics. The public doesn't trust the Thunderbolts. They are not celebrated like the Avengers. Instead, they are viewed as tools of the government, expendable assets who do the dirty work no one else will. This adds a fascinating layer of realism to the MCU. For the first time, Marvel shows what happens when the heroes are not admired, but feared. When missions fail, blame falls on them. When they succeed, credit goes elsewhere. It's a cycle of exploitation that fuels their resentment, but also unites them against a system that uses them. One of the most poignant aspects of Thunderbolts is how it juxtaposes chaos with emotion. Amid explosive action sequences, there are quiet moments where the characters confront their own pain. Yelena's grief for Natasha lingers like a shadow, pushing her to question whether she's fighting for justice or vengeance. Bucky's nightmares return, showing flashes of his days as a Hydra assassin. The camera lingers on his trembling hands, a reminder that he may never be free from what he's done. These moments humanize the film, transforming it from a typical superhero blockbuster into a psychological drama wrapped in action. Visually, the movie complements its darker tone. Gone are the vibrant, glossy aesthetics of earlier Marvel projects. Thunderbolts embraces muted colors, harsh lighting, and grounded cinematography. The action feels raw. Fights are brutal, unchoreographed, and emotionally charged. When Yelena battles Taskmaster, it's not just a fight of skill. It's a confrontation between two souls shaped by manipulation. When Bucky leads the team into a mission gone wrong, the desperation in his eyes tells a story words cannot. Director Jake Schreier ensures that every frame carries emotional weight, making the violence meaningful rather than gratuitous. What truly sets Thunderbolts apart, however, is its exploration of team dynamics. Unlike the Avengers, who operate under trust and camaraderie, the Thunderbolts constantly question each other's motives. Suspicion runs deep. Betrayal feels inevitable. Yet despite the tension, they find moments of connection, small glimpses of humanity that make them relatable. Red Guardian's humor cuts through the darkness. Bucky's quiet mentorship grounds the younger members. Yelena's sharp wit hides her vulnerability. Together, they form a dysfunctional family, one held together not by love but by survival. The film also serves as a commentary on redemption. Every member of the Thunderbolts carries the weight of their past sins. But instead of seeking forgiveness from others, they seek it from themselves. The movie doesn't promise that they'll become heroes by the end. In fact, it suggests the opposite. Some wounds are too deep to heal, some choices too irreversible. Yet there's strength in their effort to change. In that struggle, they become something greater than heroes. They become real. The narrative structure of Thunderbolts is tightly woven around moral ambiguity. Each mission the team undertakes forces them to confront questions of loyalty, purpose, and identity. The government sends them to eliminate a global threat, but as the plot unfolds, they realize they might be the real weapons of destruction. Their enemy is not just external. It's the very system that created them. This revelation drives the story toward a climax that feels both epic and tragic. As the film progresses, the return motif gains deeper meaning. It's not only about their return to battle, but their return to self-awareness. For characters like Yelena and Bucky, who were both brainwashed in the past, reclaiming autonomy becomes the ultimate act of defiance. Their return isn't just physical, it's spiritual. They reclaim their agency, their emotions, their humanity. That's what makes their journey so compelling. The soundtrack, composed by Henry Jackman, reinforces the gritty tone of the film. With a mix of industrial beats and haunting melodies, the score mirrors the duality of the Thunderbolts, strength and sorrow intertwined. Each track pulses with tension, matching the emotional volatility of the characters. It's less heroic fanfare, more psychological resonance. a sonic representation of broken people trying to piece themselves together. In a broader sense, Thunderbolts 2025 marks Marvel's evolution into more mature storytelling. It challenges the audience to sympathize with the morally gray, to question the idea of good versus evil. The film asks, can redemption ever be complete? Can people who have done terrible things still be worthy of saving others? There are no easy answers, and that's the beauty of it. The MCU has often been criticized for formulaic storytelling, but Thunderbolts breaks that mold. It's daring, introspective, and unafraid to be uncomfortable. By the end, when the team stands together, bruised, divided, but alive, the audience feels a mix of awe and melancholy. They may not be the heroes the world wants, but they're the heroes it deserves in times of uncertainty. Their return signifies a new era of Marvel storytelling, one where light and darkness coexist, and where even the most flawed souls can rise above their pasts. In essence, Thunderbolts 2025 isn't just a movie about anti-heroes. It's a reflection of humanity itself. It reminds us that everyone carries demons, that redemption is never easy, and that sometimes doing the right thing requires walking through the wrong path first. The return of Marvel's anti-heroes isn't about reclaiming glory, it's about reclaiming truth. And that truth, no matter how painful, makes their story unforgettable. Makes their story unforgettable. At its core, Thunderbolts 2025 is not just about explosions, missions, or political manipulation. It's about identity. Who are the Thunderbolts really? Beneath the surface of their titles, masks, and histories lies a group of people who were never meant to be heroes. They were created, used, and discarded by the same systems that now call them saviors. Each of them carries scars, emotional, psychological, and physical, that tell a story of pain, resilience, and survival. To understand the Thunderbolts is to understand the broken world they inhabit, a world where morality is negotiable, truth is weaponized, and loyalty comes at a price. The Thunderbolts are a covert strike team assembled under the supervision of Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, played with chilling precision by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Valentina operates in the shadows, pulling strings like a political puppeteer. Her motives are ambiguous, on part patriotism, part self-interest. She doesn't form the Thunderbolts out of compassion. She does it because she needs a team that can get its hands dirty without public backlash. Where the Avengers operated under global spotlight, the Thunderbolts operate in secrecy. Their missions are off the record, untraceable, and often morally questionable. In that gray area, they thrive. The team lineup reads like a collection of fractured souls, each one representing a different aspect of moral complexity. Yelena Belova, portrayed once again by Florence Pugh, is the emotional anchor of the team. Once an assassin for the Red Room, she has tried to rebuild herself since the events of Black Widow and Hawkeye. Yelena is sharp, funny, and unapologetically blunt, but beneath that sarcasm lies a deep wound. She lost her sister Natasha Romanoff, and that loss defines every decision she makes. Her leadership is not driven by ego but by empathy. She wants to protect others from the kind of manipulation she endured. Yet she's not naive. Yelena understands that in their line of work, compassion can get you killed. Next, we have Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, played by Sebastian Stan. Bucky's inclusion brings both gravitas and tragedy to the team. He has spent decades trying to undo the damage Hydra inflicted upon him, but redemption remains elusive. In Thunderbolts, he is reluctant to join, but Valentina manipulates him into believing this mission might finally balance his ledger. Bucky's relationship with Yelena becomes a cornerstone of the film. Two assassins, two survivors, bound by trauma and the desire to be better than what they were programmed to be. His leadership is quiet, stoic, and haunted. While others fight to prove themselves, Bucky fights to forgive himself. Then comes Red Guardian, Alexei Shostakov, portrayed by David Harbour. He's the comic relief, yes, but also a tragic reminder of outdated ideals. Once celebrated as the Soviet Union's answer to Captain America, Alexei now struggles with irrelevance. He's proud but broken, constantly trying to convince others and himself that he's still a hero. In Thunderbolts, his role goes beyond humor. We see a man wrestling with age, guilt, and the realization that the world has moved on without him. Yet his brute strength and unpredictable nature make him both an asset and a liability to the team. The mysterious Taskmaster, real name Antonia Dreykov, returns as the team's wild card. Having been freed from mind control, she's now rebuilding her sense of self. Taskmaster's ability to mimic any fighting style makes her a deadly combatant, but her silence speaks volumes. She's not just battling external enemies. She's battling her own fragmented memories. Thunderbolts gives her the screen time she was denied before, allowing audiences to finally see her as a full character, not just a weapon. Her redemption arc parallels Bucky's, making her one of the film's most layered members. Adding chaos to the mix is U.S. Agent John Walker, played by Wyatt Russell. Once a patriotic soldier, now a disillusioned operative, Walker embodies the consequences of blind loyalty. His sense of morality is warped. He believes in justice but defines it on his own terms. In Thunderbolts, he struggles to find his place among people he once viewed as criminals. The tension between Walker and Bucky is palpable, their interactions laced with unspoken resentment and reluctant respect. Walker's inner conflict, torn between heroism and control, adds a volatile energy to every mission. Ghost, Ava Starr, portrayed by Hannah John Kamen, brings another layer of intrigue. Her phasing abilities make her essential for infiltration missions, but emotionally she's detached. The years of pain caused by her molecular instability have left her wary of trust. In Thunderbolts, Ghost begins to rediscover her humanity through her connection with the team. Her character symbolizes the blurred line between science and suffering, a living reminder of how far governments will go in the name of progress. Together, these characters form a team unlike any other in the MCU. They are not united by a noble cause but by necessity. Each mission they undertake is steeped in secrecy. Rescue operations that aren't really rescues, peacekeeping assignments that result in destruction, and neutralizations that cross ethical lines. Their world is not black and white. It's painted in shades of gray where every victory feels like a compromise. The first mission in Thunderbolt sets the tone perfectly. The team is sent to infiltrate a rogue nation, harboring dangerous technology that threatens global security. But as the operation unfolds, they discover that their true objective isn't to save anyone. It's to eliminate witnesses and destroy evidence. The realization fractures the team. Yelena confronts Valentina about the lies, Bucky questions his participation, and U.S. Agent defends the mission under the guise of patriotism. This internal conflict becomes the emotional heartbeat of the movie. The Thunderbolts must decide whether they're tools or free thinkers. The brilliance of the storytelling lies in how it humanizes each mission. Every battle becomes a metaphor for the character's inner wars. When Bucky fights mercenaries, he's not just fighting enemies. He's fighting the Winter Soldier inside him. When Yelena argues with Valentina, it's not about the mission. It's about reclaiming agency from a lifetime of manipulation. Even Red Guardian's over-the-top heroics mask his desperation to be relevant in a world that no longer values his kind of heroism. Throughout the movie, the line, "Who are the Thunderbolts?" becomes a recurring question, both within the dialogue and the narrative itself. Are they mercenaries? Are they pawns of a corrupt system? Or are they something more? People capable of change despite their flaws? The answer evolves as the story unfolds. By the midpoint, they begin to operate outside Valentina's control, choosing missions that align with their own sense of justice, however flawed. That rebellion becomes their turning point, the moment they stop being weapons and start being individuals. Marvel cleverly uses the Thunderbolts to explore what it means to be a team in a post-Avengers world. The world has grown cynical. Governments are weaponizing heroism, and the public no longer believes in selfless saviors. In this atmosphere, the Thunderbolts emerge as a necessary evil, heroes for a time that no longer trust heroes. Their missions are messy, their choices questionable, but their intentions are painfully human. Cinematically, each mission sequence in Thunderbolts is grounded and visceral. The camera work is less polished, more documentary style, making the audience feel like they're inside the operation. Explosions aren't glamorous and they're chaotic. Death isn't romanticized and it's raw and unsettling. This approach strips away the fantasy of heroism, replacing it with something that feels real, almost uncomfortable. When Yelena drags a wounded teammate to safety, or when Bucky hesitates to pull the trigger, the audience feels the weight of those moments. The script also makes clever use of symbolism. The Thunderbolts logo, a stylized lightning bolt, represents not just power but unpredictability. Lightning is dangerous, uncontrollable, and brief, much like the team itself. Their missions strike fast, hit hard, and often leave destruction in their wake. But beneath the chaos lies purpose. Each member is trying to harness their inner storm, to use their pain for something meaningful. Another strength of the film is its portrayal of trust, or rather, the lack of it. The Thunderbolts don't trust Valentina. They don't trust the government. Sometimes they don't even trust each other. This lack of faith forces them to rely on instinct and experience rather than ideology. Over time, trust becomes their most precious currency. Small gestures, Yelena covering Bucky during a fight, Ghost revealing a personal secret, Red Guardian risking his life for Walker, carry immense weight. These moments remind the audience that even in a team built on lies, humanity can still shine through. By the time the film reaches its third act, the Thunderbolts have begun to understand who they truly are. They're not replacements for the Avengers. They're something entirely different. They represent the imperfect side of heroism, the part that acknowledges failure, doubt, and selfish motives. Yet their flaws don't make them weaker. They make them real. When they go rogue against Valentina to stop a global catastrophe, it's not for fame or recognition. It's because, for the first time, they're fighting for their own version of justice. Ultimately, the question, who are the Thunderbolts, doesn't have one definitive answer. They are anti-heroes, survivors, tools of the system, and rebels against it. All at once, they are a reflection of the world they live in. Complex, contradictory, and morally gray. Complex, contradictory, and morally gray. The Avengers were once the world's greatest symbol of hope, a shining beacon that proved humanity could rise above greed, division, and fear. Their victories were grand, their sacrifices noble, and their unity unbreakable. But as Thunderbolts 2025 boldly reveals, every light casts a shadow. The same institution that saved the world countless times also left behind ruins, emotional, political, and moral. The Thunderbolts are not just a new team. They are the consequence of everything the Avengers represented and everything they failed to fix. This film dares to pull back the curtain on the perfect image of heroism, showing that even legends have legacies stained by unintended darkness. The story of the Thunderbolts cannot exist without the Avengers. Their creation is a direct response to the vacuum left after the disbanding of Earth's mightiest heroes, when Tony Stark sacrificed himself in Endgame and Steve Rogers retired to a peaceful life in the past. The world was left without moral anchors. The governments, corporations, and secret agencies saw this as both a tragedy and an opportunity. Without the Avengers' oversight, new powers rose in the shadows. People like Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, who understood that control was more valuable than hope. She built the Thunderbolts not to inspire the world, but to manipulate it. Thunderbolts 2025 uses its narrative to question the very foundation of the Avengers' legacy. Were they truly saviors, or were they just another kind of weapon, one that served a different agenda? When Yelena and Bucky discuss their mission, the dialogue is filled with quiet bitterness. The Avengers saved the world, Yelena says, but who saved the ones they couldn't? That line echoes throughout the film, a haunting reminder that for every victory the Avengers celebrated, there were collateral damages left unhealed. Cities were destroyed, families torn apart, governments destabilized, and yet, the world continued to worship the myth of heroism without questioning its price. Marvel cleverly builds on this theme through the visual storytelling. The world of Thunderbolts feels darker, colder, and more cynical than that of the early MCU. The once bright symbol of the Avengers, the A logo, appears cracked and faded in the background of certain scenes, as if to symbolize a civilization moving on from its idealism. Citizens no longer wear Iron Man t-shirts or hang Captain America posters. Instead, they whisper about government conspiracies, corporate corruption, and secret teams that fight wars no one hears about. The Thunderbolts live in the shadow of fallen gods, cleaning up messes created by heroes who were never held accountable. Each member of the team has a personal connection to the Avengers' legacy, and each one carries resentment toward it. Yelena Belova's entire life was shaped by Natasha Romanoff's decisions. While Natasha was celebrated as a hero, Yelena, was left to live in the remnants of the Red Room program that the Avengers never fully dismantled. Her relationship with her sister's memory is complex. Love mixed with anger, admiration mixed with grief. In Thunderbolts, Yelena confronts the truth that her sister's legacy may have inspired hope, but it also created pain for those left behind. Bucky Barnes' story runs even deeper. As Steve Rogers' closest friend, Bucky has always been linked to the moral compass of the Avengers, but while Steve was idolized, Bucky was feared. Even after years of fighting for redemption, he remains the Winter Soldier in the eyes of the world, a living reminder that even heroes have blood on their hands. The film doesn't shy away from this contradiction. It forces Bucky to question whether the Avengers truly represented freedom, or if they were simply another version of control, one that operated under the guise of righteousness. Red Guardian, too, brings his own unique perspective on the Avengers' legacy. As the self-proclaimed Soviet Captain America, Alexei Shostakov's life has been a parody of Steve Rogers' mythos. In every scene, his bravado hides deep insecurity. He resents how the world revered Rogers as the ultimate hero while mocking him as a relic of propaganda. His humor masks bitterness. "Captain America got a statue," he quips in one scene. "I got a cell." His line perfectly captures the global disparity in how the Avengers' actions were perceived. For every hero the West celebrated, there were counterparts who were silenced, forgotten, or imprisoned. The film also shines a light on the darker political consequences of the Avengers' existence. Governments realized that superpowered individuals could be both saviors and threats, depending on who controlled them. The Sokovia Accords, once introduced as a way to regulate superheroes, now serve as a blueprint for exploitation. Valentina uses the remnants of these accords to legally manipulate the Thunderbolts. Every mission they undertake is authorized under clauses designed decades ago to control people like them. The irony is painful. Laws meant to protect the world from power are now being used to enslave those who possess it. This systemic corruption is one of Thunderbolt's strongest commentaries. It asks the audience to consider whether the Avengers were truly independent, or whether they too were pawns in a larger political game. Tony Stark believed technology could save humanity, yet his inventions created Ultron. Steve Rogers believed in freedom, yet fought under governments that often abused it. Even Thor and the cosmic heroes, in their own way, brought destruction as much as salvation. The film doesn't demonize them. It humanizes them by showing their unintended consequences. One of the film's most powerful sequences occurs midway through, when the Thunderbolts uncover a classified SHIELD archive hidden beneath a demolished Avengers facility. Inside are files documenting failed missions, cover-ups, and civilian casualties from past battles. The team silently flips through evidence that the heroes they grew up idolizing were not as spotless as history remembers. Yelena finds a report about an operation in Eastern Europe where Natasha was forced to assassinate a scientist under false intelligence. Bucky finds Hydra-influenced SHIELD logs showing how his Winter Soldier missions were indirectly sanctioned by corrupted factions inside the Avengers' own network. This moment breaks them emotionally, not because their heroes failed, but because their heroes were human. This idea, that heroism comes with a price, is what gives Thunderbolts its emotional weight. The film argues that blind faith in symbols can be just as dangerous as outright villainy. The Avengers were idols, and idols invite corruption. The world relied too heavily on them, absolving itself of responsibility. When they disappeared, chaos filled the void. The Thunderbolts exist because humanity learned nothing from its past. It simply replaced one form of control with another. Valentina Allegra's dialogue encapsulates this philosophy perfectly. "The Avengers wanted to save the world," she says coldly. "I just want to own it." Her statement isn't just villainous, it's brutally honest. She understands that, in a world addicted to saviors, the one who controls the saviors controls everything. Through her, Thunderbolts exposes the uncomfortable truth that power, no matter how noble its origin, always seeks to preserve itself. The cinematography mirrors this theme of moral decay. Gone are the golden sunsets and heroic silhouettes of earlier Marvel films. The visuals are grounded, industrial, and sometimes suffocating. The Thunderbolts' missions take them to desolate war zones, crumbling cities, and sterile government labs, places where the Avengers' light never reached. Each setting feels like a scar on the world, a leftover wound from battles fought in the name of peace. The symbolism is deliberate. The Avengers may have saved the universe, but they left Earth scarred. Yet, despite its critical lens, Thunderbolts does not exist to destroy the Avengers' legacy. It exists to evolve it. The film acknowledges that hope must adapt to survive. The Thunderbolts are not meant to replace the Avengers. They are the messy human correction to their divine ideal. Where the Avengers represented perfection, the Thunderbolts represent reality. They are flawed, unstable, and untrustworthy, and that makes them more authentic. In one emotionally charged scene near the climax, Bucky tells Yelena, "Maybe we're what comes after the heroes, the cleanup crew for their mistakes." She replies softly, "Then let's make sure we don't become another one." That exchange encapsulates the entire film's message. The Thunderbolts may walk in the shadow of the Avengers, but they refuse to repeat their blindness. They understand that heroism without accountability is just another form of tyranny. By the end of Thunderbolts 2025, the audience is left with a haunting reflection. The Avengers' greatest failure was not any single battle. It was the belief that their story ended with victory. In truth, their choices echo endlessly, shaping the next generation of fighters who must now navigate a world disillusioned by perfection. The Thunderbolts are born from those echoes, carrying the burden of a legacy they never asked for. The dark side of the Avengers' legacy isn't about villainy, it's about consequence. It's about what happens when good intentions collide with political realities and personal flaws. Through its gritty storytelling and morally gray characters, Thunderbolts forces us to confront a question rarely asked in superhero cinema: if heroes can cause so much pain while trying to do good, what does that make the rest of us? In answering that question, Thunderbolts 2025 gives us something the Avengers never could: honesty. Alexei Shostakov, better known as the Red Guardian, is one of the most complex, tragic, and yet strangely endearing characters in Thunderbolts 2025. His journey from forgotten relic to reluctant hero is a story steeped in humor, heartbreak, and redemption. This film not only revives his character from the shadows of Black Widow 2021, but also redefines him as one of the emotional pillars of the new Marvel era. Beneath his thick beard, boastful attitude, and unpolished bravado lies a man haunted by his past, a soldier molded by propaganda, discarded by his government, and overshadowed by the myth of Captain America. In Thunderbolts 2025, we finally witness his rebirth, not as a symbol of Soviet power, but as a flawed man trying to make peace with his history. When the film opens, Alexei is a shadow of his former self. Years have passed since his imprisonment and the events of Black Widow. The glory days of fighting for the Soviet ideal are long gone, replaced by disillusionment and the pain of being forgotten. The world has moved on. The Avengers have saved and lost the planet multiple times. While Alexei's own contributions have been reduced to rumor and ridicule, he now lives quietly, far from the spotlight, overweight, out of shape, and still clinging to his faded heroism. The first time we see him in Thunderbolts, he's sitting in a rundown apartment in St. Petersburg, staring at a cracked photograph of his family, Natasha, Yelena, and Melina. The silence is broken only by the flickering of an old Soviet propaganda film playing in the background. It's a powerful metaphor, a man trapped in the memories of a system that no longer exists. From the very beginning, the film uses Red Guardian to explore the human side of forgotten heroes. Alexei represents a generation of soldiers and spies who were manipulated by governments for political gain. He believed in patriotism, loyalty, and ideology, and for that belief he was discarded. Now, when Valentina Allegra de Fontaine recruits him for the Thunderbolts, she doesn't appeal to his morality. She appeals to his pride. She tells him that the world has forgotten the Red Guardian, and joining her new team is his chance to remind everyone who he is. It's manipulation wrapped in flattery, and Alexei, eager for relevance, takes the bait. However, The film quickly shows that Alexei is not just comic relief or a nostalgic callback. He's a deeply emotional character struggling to reconcile his delusions of grandeur with the harsh truth of his legacy. One of the most heartbreaking sequences occurs early on, when he visits a dilapidated museum dedicated to Soviet superheroes. In one corner stands a cracked glass display containing his old Red Guardian suit, dusty, torn, and faded. Tourists walk by without a second glance. Alexei stares at it for a long time, and for once there's no boasting, no laughter, just quiet humiliation. That moment defines his arc, a man realizing that his country used him. The world forgot him and history erased him. As the story progresses, we see his dynamic with the team evolve, particularly with Yelena Belova. Their relationship is one of the emotional anchors of Thunderbolts. In Black Widow, their bond was built on awkward affection and shared trauma, but here it matures into mutual understanding. Yelena, now more seasoned and hardened by life as a mercenary, sees Alexei's flaws clearly, yet she still loves him in her own cynical way. Their banter is laced with sarcasm but underpinned by genuine care. In one memorable scene, Yelena snaps at him. "You think wearing that suit again makes you a hero? It just makes you nostalgic," Alexei replies softly. "Nostalgia is all I have left." That line encapsulates the pain of a man living in the shadow of his own myth. Throughout the film, Alexei's sense of humor remains his defense mechanism. His over-the-top personality provides moments of levity in an otherwise dark story, but it's never played for cheap laughs. Instead, his humor becomes a tragic mask, a way to hide his guilt and shame. He constantly compares himself to Captain America, claiming to have fought him, a lie we all know from Black Widow. But Thunderbolts adds depth to that delusion. In one scene, he admits to Bucky Barnes, "I lied about fighting him." But sometimes you tell yourself stories to feel like you mattered. It's one of the most vulnerable moments in the entire movie, a confession that turns his arrogance into empathy. Bucky, who has his own history of manipulation and loss, becomes an unexpected confidant for Alexei. Their interactions form one of the most surprisingly heartfelt subplots in the film. Bucky understands what it means to be a tool of political power, stripped of identity and used as propaganda. The two develop a rough, brotherly friendship, one built not on trust but on shared disillusionment. In a late-night conversation around a campfire, Bucky tells him, "You're not defined by what they made you do." Alexei responds with a half-smile, "Then why do I still wear what they made me wear?" That line cuts deep, a reflection of his inability to escape the persona that once gave his life meaning. Thunderbolts 2025 also delves into Alexei's moral ambiguity. Unlike traditional heroes, he's not motivated by justice or redemption, at least not at first. He wants recognition. He wants to prove that his version of heroism was just as valid as the Western narrative of the Avengers. When Valentina sends the team on a covert mission under false pretenses, Alexei initially goes along without question. He still believes in orders and hierarchy and the illusion of the mission. But as the story unfolds, and the Thunderbolts uncover the true nature of Valentina's manipulation, Alexei faces the same question that once haunted Bucky. Who are you when the flag you served betrays you? This question reaches its breaking point during the film's second act. The team infiltrates a secret facility in Siberia, a remnant of the Red Room program, to destroy what they believe is a weapons cache. Instead, they find imprisoned children being trained as assassins, just as Yelena and Natasha once were. The revelation shatters Alexei. He realizes that the system he once glorified is still alive, still corrupting innocence in the name of patriotism. Overwhelmed by guilt, he lashes out, attacking the guards with a ferocity that blurs the line between heroism and rage. It's a powerful scene, one that redefines him not as a parody of Captain America, but as a broken soldier finally confronting his past. Visually, the sequence mirrors his emotional transformation. The camera lingers on his trembling hands, blood-stained and shaking as he stares at the destruction he's caused. The red hue of the Siberian lights reflects off his suit, turning him into a literal embodiment of his name, the Red Guardian, not as a symbol of pride, but of shame. Yelena approaches him and says quietly, "You can't save who you were, Papa, but you can save who you are now." That line becomes his turning point. From that moment, Alexei's mission changes. He stops trying to be remembered and starts trying to be useful. As the Thunderbolts begin to fracture under the weight of their secrets, Alexei becomes the emotional glue that holds them together. His paternal instincts, and once mocked, now give the team a sense of grounding. He acts as a father figure not only to Yelena, but to the entire squad. His advice is rough and unpolished, but it comes from the heart. When Ghost expresses doubt about her worth, Alexei tells her, "You don't need to be invisible to matter." When Taskmaster questions her identity, he says, "Masks are heavy only when you forget why you wear them." These lines, simple yet profound, show his growth from a self-absorbed has-been to a mentor capable of empathy. One of the film's most iconic moments comes during the final act. As the team faces near-certain death in a collapsing facility, Alexei holds the line so the others can escape. It's a beautifully choreographed sequence, brutal, emotional, and symbolic. For the first time, he doesn't fight for recognition or glory. He fights for family. His last stand is set against the haunting echo of an old Soviet anthem, reworked into a slow, tragic orchestral score. The lyrics, on the once celebrating power and unity, now sound hollow, almost mocking. As debris falls around him, Alexei smiles through blood and pain, whispering, "Tell them the Red Guardian finally did something worth remembering." Miraculously, he survives, barely, but the moment cements his transformation. The man who once lied about his battles finally earns his legacy through truth. When Yelena visits him in the hospital afterward, he jokes weakly, "Maybe they'll make a statue this time." She smirks and says, "You don't need one." That exchange sums up the heart of his story. Validation no longer comes from others' approval, but from self-acceptance. By the end of Thunderbolts 2025, Red Guardian stands as one of Marvel's most human characters. He is not perfect, nor is he redeemed in the traditional sense. His flaws remain, his pride still flares, and his humor still masks pain. But he has evolved. He understands that being a hero isn't about symbols or propaganda. It's about choices, about standing up even when no one is watching. His journey mirrors the central theme of Thunderbolts, that broken people can still do good, that damaged souls can still find purpose. From a filmmaking perspective, the portrayal of Red Guardian is masterful. The direction allows David Harbour's performance to oscillate between comedy and tragedy seamlessly. The cinematography captures every nuance. The flicker of insecurity behind his boastful grin, the heaviness in his eyes when he confronts his failures, and the raw power in his final redemption. Yelena Belova's rise to leadership in Thunderbolts 2025 marks one of the most compelling and emotionally resonant arcs in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. From her first appearance in Black Widow 2021, she was already more than just Natasha Romanoff's sister. She was a force of her own, sharp-tongued, skilled, fiercely independent, and deeply human. In Thunderbolts, that spark ignites into full flame. The film transforms her from a grieving assassin into a battle-hardened leader, one who learns that heroism isn't about perfection, but about purpose. Her journey is raw, powerful, and layered with emotion, capturing the pain of loss, the burden of legacy, and the cost of leadership in a world built on betrayal. The film opens with Yelena living in emotional exile after the events of Hawkeye and Black Widow. She's lost faith in the idea of heroes. The Avengers, the people her sister died for, are gone, scattered, and silent. Yelena feels abandoned by the very system that turned her life upside down. We find her in Morocco, working as a freelance operative, taking low-level contracts that don't require moral judgment. Her missions are clean, efficient, and detached, a way of surviving without feeling. But deep down she's restless. Her sister's memory still haunts her, her heart still filled with unspoken guilt. She blames herself for Natasha's death, for not being there at the end, and for living in a world that no longer seems to need her. It's in this fractured state that Valentina Allegra de Fontaine finds her. Valentina has a way of seeing through people. She doesn't appeal to Yelena's sense of justice. She appeals to her anger. "You can keep hiding in the shadows," she tells her, "or you can lead the people who've been abandoned by the light." That line plants the seed for Yelena's transformation. For the first time since Natasha's death, someone recognizes her not as a sidekick or assassin, but as a leader. When Yelena reluctantly joins the Thunderbolts, she's not there to inspire anyone. She's there to control the chaos, or so she thinks. Her leadership style at first is harsh, cynical, and uncompromising. She sees the team as a collection of liabilities. Red Guardian is too emotional, Ghost too unstable, Taskmaster too silent, and Bucky too broken. She keeps her distance, relying on sarcasm and authority to mask her vulnerability. "I'm not here to make friends," she snaps in one scene. "I'm here to make sure we don't die stupidly." Her sharp wit and no-nonsense attitude immediately establish her dominance. But it also isolates her. The film uses Yelena's interactions with her team to slowly peel away her emotional armor. Her relationship with Bucky Barnes becomes one of mutual recognition, two soldiers burdened by guilt, both searching for meaning. In one quiet moment, Bucky tells her, "You remind me of her," referring to Natasha. Yelena responds sharply, "Don't. She was better." But the pain in her eyes says everything. That exchange encapsulates her inner conflict. She's desperate to honor Natasha's legacy, but terrified of being compared to her. Yelena's leadership truly begins to take shape during the Thunderbolts' first mission, a botched operation that exposes Valentina's manipulation. When the team discovers they've been sent not to stop a threat but to eliminate political evidence, chaos erupts. Red Guardian questions orders, Ghost panics, and Bucky nearly walks away. It's Yelena who steps up. Against all odds, she takes command, redirecting the mission to save the civilians caught in the crossfire. It's the first time we see her not as an assassin, but as a protector. She may not admit it, but in that moment, Natasha's influence lives through her. The action choreography in this sequence mirrors her evolution. Gone are the reckless acrobatic moves from Black Widow. Yelena's fighting style is sharper, more calculated, the style of someone who's learned the value of restraint. Every punch, every move carries purpose. The camera often stays close to her, emphasizing her command in chaos. When she barks orders, the team listens, not because she demands respect, but because she earns it. Still, her path to leadership is far from smooth. Thunderbolts 2025 makes sure her transformation feels earned, not gifted. Yelena struggles with self-doubt, haunted by the idea that she's just filling her sister's shoes. One of the most powerful scenes in the film takes place in a safe house between missions. Alone, she unpacks Natasha's old vest, the same one she gave her in Black Widow. The camera lingers on her trembling hands as she traces the seams. In a whispered monologue, she admits, "You wanted to save the world, sis. I just want to stop breaking it." The scene is silent except for the faint hum of wind outside. It's intimate, haunting, and deeply human. Yelena's transformation reaches a critical point when Valentina's lies are exposed. The Thunderbolts learn that their missions have been part of a larger scheme, one designed to control global politics through covert manipulation. Betrayed and furious, the team splinters, but Yelena refuses to run. Instead, she channels her anger into purpose. "If no one else is going to clean up this mess," she declares, "then we will, on our terms." That moment marks her rebirth, not as a follower or assassin, but as a true leader willing to fight for what's right, even when the system itself is rotten. Her leadership style becomes the moral center of the team. Where Valentina uses fear and control, Yelena uses honesty and loyalty. She doesn't promise victory. She promises truth. When the team falters, she reminds them of their shared pain, and how that pain can become strength. "We've all been used," she says in one rallying speech, "but maybe this time we get to choose who we fight for." It's a defining moment, reminiscent of the emotional power of Steve Rogers' speeches, yet uniquely grounded in her grit and realism. The bond between Yelena and Red Guardian also deepens. Their father-daughter dynamic adds emotional weight to her arc. While Alexei represents the past, a man defined by outdated ideals, Yelena embodies the future, pragmatic, self-aware, and unafraid to challenge authority. In one touching exchange, Alexei tells her, "You lead like your sister." Yelena replies, "No, I lead like me." That single line captures her entire evolution. She's no longer chasing Natasha's shadow. She's stepping out of it. Another standout relationship is with Taskmaster. The two share an unspoken understanding. Both products of manipulation, both robbed of their autonomy. In one of the film's quietest yet most emotional scenes, Yelena and Taskmaster sit side by side after a mission gone wrong. Without words, Yelena removes her gloves and offers her hand, a simple gesture of solidarity. It's a moment of silent forgiveness, not just toward Taskmaster, but toward herself. As the film builds toward its climax, Yelena's leadership is tested in the most brutal way possible. Valentina orders a drone strike on the Thunderbolts to cover her tracks. The team barely escapes, but Yelena is injured in the process. Bloodied and battered, she refuses to stand down. "I'm not done yet," she growls, limping toward the final confrontation. Her determination mirrors the raw resilience that made Natasha iconic, but here it feels heavier, more grounded. Yelena fights not for ideals, but for survival, for family, for truth. The final battle, set in a crumbling fortress against Valentina's private army, is both cinematic and deeply symbolic. As chaos erupts, Yelena commands the team with precision. She coordinates Ghost's infiltration, covers Bucky's flank, and saves Red Guardian from a collapsing tower. Every move reinforces her role as the heartbeat of the Thunderbolts. The scene culminates in a face-off between Yelena and Valentina, mentor versus creation. Their confrontation isn't about brute strength. It's about ideology. "You wanted soldiers," Yelena spits, "but you made survivors." It's a line that defines not just her, but the entire essence of the Thunderbolts. In the aftermath, the team stands victorious but fractured. The world still sees them as criminals, but among themselves they found something greater: unity through imperfection. Yelena, standing amidst the rubble, looks up at the sunrise. The light hits her face, echoing Natasha's final moments in Endgame. But this time it's not about sacrifice, it's about continuation. The legacy lives on, not through imitation, but through evolution. The final moments of Thunderbolts are quiet yet powerful. Yelena walks alone on a bridge overlooking a rebuilt city. Bucky approaches her asking, "So what now?" She smiles faintly and replies, "Now we make sure no one ever needs Avengers again." It's a bold statement, one that redefines the future of the MCU. Yelena isn't trying to rebuild the past. She's forging something new. From a storytelling perspective, her arc is one of the most complete and emotionally satisfying in modern Marvel films. It's a story of grief turned into growth, of a woman who learns that leadership isn't about being fearless. It's about standing tall despite the fear. Florence Pugh's performance elevates every frame, delivering a balance of toughness, wit, and vulnerability that anchors the film. Yelena Belova's journey from orphaned assassin to leader of the Thunderbolts is not just a character evolution. It's a statement about the future of heroism. She represents a new kind of strength, one born from trauma, tempered by loss, and defined by choice. She doesn't wear a cape or carry a shield, but she carries something more powerful: the truth. By the end of Thunderbolts 2025, Yelena stands not as Natasha's successor, but as her equal, a leader forged in fire, shaped by pain, and destined to lead the MCU into a darker, more honest era. The Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, was one of the most haunted figures in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And in Thunderbolts 2025, his story reaches its most complex and introspective phase yet. After decades of manipulation, war, and fractured identity, Bucky emerges in this film not as a symbol of redemption, but as a man struggling to find purpose in a world that has moved beyond the idea of heroes. His role in Thunderbolts is mysterious by design, a blend of quiet strength, emotional turbulence, and unspoken leadership that binds the team together, even when it begins to fall apart. From the first scene he appears in, it's clear that this isn't the same Winter Soldier we saw in Captain America, the Winter Soldier or the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The edges are softer, but the pain still lingers in his eyes. The years have changed him. He carries himself like a man who's tired of fighting yet incapable of stopping. In the opening act, we find Bucky in Bucharest, living under an assumed name, quietly repairing motorcycles in a small garage. His metal arm is hidden beneath a leather jacket, his hair shorter, his demeanor calm but distant. When Valentina Allegra de Fontaine arrives to recruit him, she doesn't need to say much. She already knows what drives him. "You're not looking for forgiveness anymore," she says. "You're looking for purpose." And she's right. That's the heart of Bucky's mystery in Thunderbolts. He isn't driven by revenge or redemption anymore. He's driven by the aching need to belong, to do something meaningful with the years he has left. But what Valentina offers isn't salvation. It's manipulation disguised as opportunity. She tells him that joining the Thunderbolts will give him a chance to control the chaos. But what she really means is using his guilt as leverage. For Bucky, that guilt has always been his cage. And in this film, we watch him try and fail, and try again to break free. The film plays with the duality of his identity. Bucky Barnes, the man, and the Winter Soldier, the weapon. Even though the brainwashing is gone, the memories remain, burned into his psyche like scars that won't fade. In one chilling scene early in the film, Bucky wakes up from a nightmare where he's reliving one of his old missions. The sound design is brutal. Muffled screams, gunfire, and the metallic hiss of his arm. He jolts awake in a cold sweat, staring at his hand as if it's still covered in blood. It's a brief but powerful moment that sets the tone for his arc. The Winter Soldier may be gone in name, but he's not gone in spirit. When Bucky first joins the team, he's distant and analytical. He doesn't speak much, and when he does, it's with dry, razor-sharp honesty. He doesn't trust Valentina. He barely tolerates Red Guardian's rambling, and he keeps his emotional distance from Yelena, though he recognizes in her the same quiet pain that once consumed him. There's mutual respect between them, but it's unspoken. She leads through defiance. He leads through discipline. Their dynamic evolves throughout the film, and while there's no overt romance, their connection feels deeply human. Two broken warriors recognizing the same kind of damage in each other. Bucky's mysterious role begins to unfold as the team starts their missions. Officially, he's there as the tactical field leader, the one with experience, the strategist. But beneath the surface, there's something deeper going on. He's secretly working with an unknown contact, someone feeding him classified intel about Valentina's operations. Throughout the first half of the film, we see him exchanging encrypted messages, receiving coordinates, and following leads in secret. The audience doesn't know who this contact is, only that Bucky's loyalty may not be fully aligned with the Thunderbolts' mission. This subplot adds a layer of intrigue and tension within the team. Yelena begins to suspect that he's hiding something. Ghost doesn't trust him at all, sensing the same cold detachment she once saw in Hydra operatives. Red Guardian surprisingly defends him, calling him a fellow soldier trying to stay alive in a world that forgets its warriors. But the truth behind Bucky's secret soon becomes one of the film's emotional turning points. Midway through Thunderbolts 2025, the team discovers that Valentina has been using them to erase evidence of illegal experiments, programs reminiscent of Hydra's own methods. The parallels are not lost on Bucky. When he learns that one of these facilities was once a Hydra testing site, where children were experimented on using the same serum that created him, he breaks. The stoic composure cracks. His contact, revealed through intercepted transmissions, turns out to be none other than Sharon Carter, working to expose Valentina's operations from within. This revelation shocks the team but cements Bucky's role as their moral compass. The film takes its time exploring Bucky's internal battle. He doesn't see himself as a hero, not anymore. He sees himself as a ghost, a remnant of a war that never truly ended. In one deeply emotional scene, Yelena confronts him after discovering his secret communication with Sharon. "You lied to us," she says, furious. Bucky's response is quiet but devastating. "I don't lie. I just don't know how to tell the truth anymore." It's a confession that reveals the core of his character in a man so fractured by years of deception and violence. That honesty feels like a foreign language. The cinematography amplifies his loneliness. The film often frames Bucky in half-light, one side of his face illuminated, the other shrouded in shadow, symbolizing the duality he can never escape. His vibranium arm, once a symbol of control and violence, now becomes a metaphor for his internal struggle. There's a recurring motif where Bucky clenches his metal fist and releases it slowly, a visual echo of his fight to control the rage inside him. One of the most haunting scenes in the movie takes place when the team infiltrates an abandoned Hydra bunker in Eastern Europe. The halls are lined with rusting metal and peeling propaganda posters. As they move deeper, Bucky recognizes the facility. It's the same place where he was once conditioned. The memories hit him in flashes, screaming, electric shocks, the trigger words. The sound design distorts, blurring past and present until he collapses, trembling. Yelena kneels beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder, whispering, "You're not him anymore." But Bucky's voice breaks as he replies, then why does it still feel like I am? This scene becomes the emotional centerpiece of his arc. It's not just about trauma, it's about identity. The film refuses to offer easy closure. Bucky doesn't simply move on. Instead, he learns to coexist with his pain. He accepts that the Winter Soldier will always be a part of him, not as a curse, but as a scar. In one later scene, he says to Red Guardian, "We can't erase what we were made to be, but we can choose what comes after." That line encapsulates the soul of Thunderbolts, the idea that broken people can still shape their destiny, even when the past refuses to let go. As the plot unfolds, Bucky becomes the team's quiet anchor. When Valentina's deception unravels and the Thunderbolts begin to fracture, it's Bucky who pulls them back together. His experience as both a soldier and survivor gives him perspective. In a key moment before the final mission, he delivers a speech that redefines the team's purpose. "We've all been someone's weapon. Now it's time we learn how to fight for ourselves." It's not grand or poetic. It's weary and real, the kind of wisdom born from pain. The final act pushes Bucky to his physical and emotional limits. During the climactic battle, he faces Valentina's elite operatives, former Hydra soldiers who, like him, were once brainwashed into servitude. The fight choreography is brutal and symbolic, blending flashbacks with the present. Each punch feels like an exorcism, each movement like a struggle against the ghost of the Winter Soldier. The camera lingers on his face, calm, resolute, finally free. But Thunderbolts doesn't end his story with triumph. It ends with choice. After the mission, Valentina is exposed and the team disbands temporarily. Bucky walks away from the group, disappearing into the night. Yelena calls after him, asking where he's going. He turns and says, "I don't know, but this time I'll decide where I end, up." It's the most liberating moment of his character's journey, a man who's finally reclaimed ownership of his life, after decades of being controlled. From a cinematic standpoint, Thunderbolts 2025 uses Bucky's role to tie together the emotional threads of the film. He's the bridge between eras, between the noble idealism of the Avengers and the fractured realism of the Thunderbolts. His quiet strength contrasts with Yelena's fiery leadership, and together they create a balance that defines the tone of the movie. Sebastian Stan's performance is nothing short of extraordinary. He conveys a lifetime of pain with minimal dialogue, using silence as a weapon. His eyes tell stories of guilt, resilience, and hope in ways words never could. Every glance, every pause feels deliberate, layered with meaning. This version of Bucky is not a super soldier. He's a survivor. By the end of Thunderbolts, the mystery of the Winter Soldier isn't solved, it's reframed. He's no longer the assassin defined by his past or the hero chasing redemption. He's something more profound. A man who accepts that redemption isn't an endpoint but a process. His scars are his map, his pain his compass. And though he walks away alone, there's peace in his solitude. Thunderbolts 2025 doesn't just give Bucky Barnes closure. It gives him evolution. It transforms his trauma into strength and his silence into leadership. Valentina Allegra de Fontaine has always been one of the most elusive and cunning characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In Thunderbolts 2025, her influence evolves from the shadows into full-scale orchestration. She is no longer just a recruiter or strategist. She is the puppeteer pulling the strings of broken heroes, shaping the Thunderbolts into something far darker than they realize. Her agenda is buried beneath layers of manipulation, politics, and personal ambition, making her one of the most dangerous forces in Marvel's Phase 6. From her first appearance, Valentina exudes control. The camera often frames her in partial light, hinting at the dual nature of her motives. She speaks softly but with the authority of someone who knows more than she lets on. Played once again by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Valentina is presented as both charismatic and terrifying. Her calm demeanor conceals a ruthless intelligence, a woman who doesn't need superpowers because her greatest weapon is information. The film opens with Valentina orchestrating a covert operation within the U.S. government. She's seen in her sleek office overlooking Washington, D.C., speaking on encrypted calls discussing a task force initiative that could neutralize superhuman liabilities. This task force, of course, is the Thunderbolts. But the film wastes no time revealing that her motives aren't about redemption or justice, they're about control. She isn't building heroes. She's building assets. One of the movie's central mysteries revolves around what Valentina truly wants. On the surface, she sells the idea of a government-sanctioned strike team capable of doing the dirty work the Avengers never could. But beneath the political jargon lies something more sinister. Her real agenda is tied to the remnants of Hydra and the legacy of SHIELD, two organizations that shaped her past. The film teases that Valentina may have once worked under Nick Fury, but diverged into her own path, believing that control through manipulation was the only way to maintain order in a chaotic world. A key early scene highlights her philosophy. During a meeting with high-ranking officials, one senator questions her morality. "You're playing God with unstable people." Valentina leans back, smirks, and replies, "Someone has to. Gods are unreliable." That line defines her entire character. She doesn't trust heroes, gods, or anyone who acts outside her system. She trusts only power, especially when it's in her hands. As the film progresses, Valentina becomes the invisible antagonist. She rarely steps onto the battlefield, but her presence is everywhere, through surveillance feeds, intercepted messages, and orders delivered through encrypted communication. Each mission the Thunderbolts undertake serves a hidden purpose in her larger scheme. For instance, when she sends them to retrieve classified Hydra tech from a black market facility in South America, she claims it's to prevent it from falling into terrorist hands. Later, it's revealed that she secretly repurposes that tech for her own experiments. Her manipulations are psychological as well as tactical. Valentina studies each team member's weaknesses and exploits them with surgical precision. She appeals to Yelena's desire to prove herself, to Red Guardian's longing for relevance, and to Ghost's fear of being forgotten. She frames her orders in ways that sound noble but are inherently self-serving. Her greatest talent isn't deception, it's persuasion. She makes people believe they're acting on their own free will, even when they're following her script. The most chilling example of this comes midway through the movie when Valentina delivers a one-on-one conversation with Bucky Barnes. The setting is dimly lit, an underground command center filled with holographic screens. She tells Bucky that she understands his pain, that she too has been betrayed by those she trusted. "The world doesn't reward loyalty anymore," she says softly. "It rewards leverage." Then she slides a folder across the table. Inside are photographs of Hydra survivors now working for private military groups. "Finish what they started," she tells him. It's manipulation disguised as redemption, and Bucky, weary and searching for purpose, nearly falls for it. Valentina's agenda begins to unravel when cracks form within the Thunderbolts. Her need for control becomes her downfall. Ghost starts questioning the ethics behind their missions, noticing inconsistencies in their intelligence. Yelena discovers that the files Valentina provided were doctored. Red Guardian grows suspicious after realizing that every operation benefits Valentina's private network more than any government initiative. Slowly, the team begins to see the truth. Valentina is using them as pawns in a much larger game. The movie then reveals the heart of her secret plan. Valentina's true goal is the creation of a new kind of super soldier program, one not based on ideals like Captain America's, but on obedience and emotional control. Using stolen Hydra research and Stark Industries tech, she develops a process called cognitive synchronization. This allows her to manipulate neural pathways in enhanced individuals, ensuring absolute loyalty. The Thunderbolts, unknowingly, have been collecting the components for this project. Every mission, every retrieval, each step feeds into this experiment. In a powerful sequence, the team finally discovers Valentina's hidden lab beneath a decommissioned shield base in Alaska. Inside, they find containment pods and experimental chambers lined with digital neural maps. The chilling part? Each map corresponds to a member of the Thunderbolts. Valentina hasn't just studied them, she's replicated their psychological profiles, preparing to build programmable versions of each. "You don't control soldiers," she later explains in a recorded message that plays when they confront her. "You manufacture them." The betrayal cuts deep. For Yelena, who believed Valentina gave her a second chance, it's a devastating realization. For Bucky, it's a haunting reminder of Hydra's manipulation. And for the team as a whole, it shatters their fragile unity. Valentina's descent into villainy is handled with nuance. She isn't evil for the sake of it. She genuinely believes her actions are necessary. In her mind, the Avengers failed because they relied on emotion and morality. She views chaos as inevitable and sees herself as the only one capable of containing it. Her ideology echoes the same utilitarian darkness seen in Captain America, the Winter Soldier's Alexander Pierce, or Civil War's Zemo, but with a modern, psychological edge. A pivotal flashback sequence dives deeper into her backstory. We see a younger Valentina working under SHIELD during the post-blip reconstruction. Disillusioned by how heroes handled global crises, she began forming her own shadow organization, one that valued control over chaos. In a brief but revealing moment, she's seen arguing with Nick Fury, saying, "You build heroes, I build survivors." It's the philosophical divide that sets her on a path toward the events of Thunderbolts. Her final confrontation with the team is one of the most gripping scenes in the movie. It takes place inside her high-tech control chamber, a sleek, cold environment filled with holographic projections of each Thunderbolt's neural map. As Yelena, Bucky, and the rest confront her, Valentina remains composed, even amused. "You think you're the good guys?" she says with a smile. "You're the prototypes." Her words are followed by chaos as she activates the cognitive synchronization system, momentarily turning Ghost and Red Guardian against the others through implanted control chips. The battle that follows is intense and psychological, blending action with emotion. Even in defeat, Valentina never loses her poise. When the system is destroyed and her facility collapses, she doesn't beg or plead. Instead, she looks at Bucky and says, "You can destroy my lab, but not my idea. Someone will always need control." Her calm acceptance of downfall suggests that her plans may extend far beyond what the team realizes. The final act leaves her fate ambiguous. The authorities never recover her body from the wreckage. The last scene that references her shows a hidden server in an unknown location booting up, the cognitive synchronization program restarting remotely. It's a subtle hint that Valentina is still alive and planning her next move, setting the stage for future Marvel projects. From a storytelling perspective, Valentina's role elevates Thunderbolts 2025 from a simple team-up film into a political psychological thriller. She embodies the dangers of control, the corruption of idealism, and the thin line between leadership and tyranny. Her presence forces every other character to question their morality and their autonomy. Julia Louis-Dreyfus delivers her most chilling performance yet, her tone of voice always oscillating between maternal warmth and venomous manipulation. She doesn't need superpowers because she understands that the human mind is the most powerful weapon of all. By the film's end, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine stands as a symbol of modern villainy. Not monstrous, but methodical. Not chaotic, but calculated. She represents the darker side of order. The idea that in trying to control everything, you ultimately destroy the very humanity you claim to protect. Her secret agenda may have failed in Thunderbolts 2025, but the seeds she planted will likely shape the future of the MCU for years to come. MCU for years to come. Every great Marvel story begins with a fracture, a moment when ideals crumble, and the people left behind must rebuild from the ashes. Thunderbolts 2025 embraces that principle fully, introducing us to a world without the Avengers, without unshakable heroes or symbols of hope. Instead, what remains are fragments, soldiers, assassins, and outcasts, bound together not by glory but by survival. Their formation is not a product of destiny or heroism. It's the result of manipulation, desperation, and a shared need for purpose in a world that has forgotten them. The film's second act serves as the crucible where this unlikely team takes shape. Unlike the clean, idealistic formation of the Avengers, the Thunderbolts' origins are messy, distrustful, and chaotic. They are assembled not to save the world, but to fix the mistakes of those who once tried. Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, ever the manipulator, is the architect behind their recruitment, orchestrating each encounter with surgical precision. The first member we meet is Yelena Belova, the Black Widow's successor and emotional heart of the team. When the film opens, Yelena is on a personal mission in South America, tracking a black market dealer who traffics stolen Red Room technology. She's efficient and merciless, but not without compassion. The fight choreography is visceral, filled with close combat and improvisation. When she captures her target, she discovers that the tech was commissioned not by a crime syndicate, but by a classified government agency under Valentina's control. Before she can process this, she's surrounded by a strike force led by U.S. agent John Walker. Their first encounter is explosive, setting the tone for their uneasy relationship. Walker, armed with his reinforced shield, demands that Yelena stand down and cooperate. She smirks and says, "You first." Captain Discount. A brutal fight follows, fast, gritty, and grounded, ending in a draw when Valentina intervenes via drone communication. Her voice echoes through their earpieces. "Congratulations, you've both failed your independent missions. Now let's see if you can succeed together." The next recruit is Ghost, also known as Ava Star. We find her living off the grid in Eastern Europe, phasing in and out of reality as her molecular instability worsens. She's isolated, haunted by her condition and desperate for stability. Valentina offers her something she's never had before: control. In a visually stunning sequence, Valentina provides Ghost with a new stabilization prototype, a sleek device embedded in her suit that prevents her from phasing involuntarily. Ghost's acceptance isn't born of loyalty, it's survival. She doesn't trust Valentina, but she can't ignore the chance to feel human again. Red Guardian's introduction brings humor and humanity to the grim narrative. Found in a Russian prison, still boasting about his supposed battles with Captain America, Alexei Shostakov is older, slower, but still carries the heart of a warrior. When Yelena visits him to recruit him, their banter is both hilarious and tender. "America needs me again," he jokes. Yelena replies dryly, "No, but we could use someone who doesn't die easily." He laughs, smashing his metal tray against the table. "Then you've come to the right cell." His addition brings brute strength to the team and fatherly warmth, especially toward Yelena. Next comes Taskmaster, real name Antonia Dreykov, the silent mimic whose tragic past ties directly to Yelena's own. Valentina promises her freedom from the mental conditioning that once enslaved her. Through advanced neural reprogramming, Taskmaster regains her autonomy but retains her photographic reflexes. Her inclusion adds not only combat precision but also a sense of redemption. The dynamic between her and Yelena is fraught with guilt and reconciliation. Both victims of the Red Room, now forced to fight under another manipulative woman's command. Finally, the wild card, Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. He's the team's reluctant conscience, the one who's seen what happens when soldiers follow orders blindly. His recruitment is different. Valentina doesn't convince him with promises or threats. She uses guilt. She shows him classified footage of Hydra technology resurfacing in black market sales, and tells him he can prevent history from repeating itself. "You can make sure there are no more Winter Soldiers," she says. That's all it takes. When these fractured individuals first meet, chaos reigns. The scene is set in a decommissioned military base. Concrete walls, flickering lights, tension thick in the air. Yelena and Ghost immediately clash, their personalities polar opposites. Yelena confident and sarcastic, Ghost reserved and analytical. Red Guardian tries to lighten the mood, calling it a family reunion without the vodka. Bucky, standing apart from the group, observes silently, arms crossed. Walker takes charge, barking orders like a soldier desperate to prove his worth. It's not a team. It's a ticking bomb. Valentina watches from a surveillance room, smirking as she studies their interactions. To her, the dysfunction isn't a flaw. It's a feature. She believes conflict will sharpen them, that friction will force them into efficiency, and in a way she's right. Their first mission, though disastrous, begins to forge the bonds that define them. Their assignment: infiltrate an arms convoy smuggling vibranium fragments stolen from Wakanda. The mission goes wrong almost immediately. Ghost phases into a truck too early, triggering alarms. Walker charges in headfirst, ignoring Yelena's stealth plan. Red Guardian tries to lift an armored vehicle but ends up pinned beneath it. Amid the chaos, Bucky takes command, barking orders, coordinating attacks, saving Walker from being crushed by debris. It's the first time they function as a unit, not because they trust each other, but because survival demands it. The aftermath of that mission cements their fragile alliance. Around a campfire in an abandoned outpost, Yelena mocks Walker's hero pose. Ghost tends to Red Guardian's wounds, and Taskmaster quietly observes, mimicking their gestures in silence. Bucky, sitting slightly apart, finally speaks. "We're not heroes. Let's stop pretending. Yelena replies, good. Heroes get statues. We'll settle for scars. That line becomes their unofficial motto, the words that define their identity as Thunderbolts. Their growth as a team unfolds not through grand speeches, but through shared pain. Ghost opens up about her condition and fear of dying alone. Red Guardian admits his shame at being forgotten by his country. Yelena confesses her resentment toward the Avengers for leaving her sister to die. Bucky shares the nightmares that still haunt him. These moments, woven between battles, give Thunderbolts 2025 its emotional core. They're not fighting for the world, they're fighting to feel like they belong to it again. Their dynamic shifts dramatically during their second mission, infiltrating a Hydra facility, repurposed by Valentina's organization. The tension between loyalty and morality begins to tear at their unity. Walker follows Valentina's orders without question, while Bucky and Yelena start doubting the mission's purpose. Ghost detects inconsistencies in their intel, realizing they're not dismantling weapons and they're stealing data. When confronted, Walker insists, "We follow orders." Bucky's response is cutting. "That's what they said about me too." That exchange marks a turning point. It's the moment they stop being Valentina's tools and start becoming something else, a rogue element. The film shifts gears, transitioning from military action to psychological rebellion. The team begins operating off-book, investigating Valentina's true motives while pretending to follow her commands. Their newfound autonomy transforms them into genuine anti-heroes, still morally gray, but driven by conscience rather than control. One of the film's standout sequences captures this transformation visually. During a mission in the Arctic, the team must retrieve an experimental power core from a downed aircraft. As they fight through mercenaries and blizzards, the camera alternates between moments of chaos and unity. Yelena coordinating aerial drones, Ghost phasing through enemy lines, Red Guardian lifting wreckage to save civilians trapped beneath. It's messy, brutal, and beautiful. For the first time, they move as one. By the film's third act, the Thunderbolts have fully embraced their rogue status. When they discover Valentina's cognitive synchronization project, they decide to dismantle it from within. The emotional stakes skyrocket as trust fractures and loyalties blur. Walker, torn between duty and morality, briefly sides with Valentina before ultimately rejecting her control. The team's rebellion against their own creator becomes the defining theme of Thunderbolts 2025. A rebellion not just against authority, but against the systems that turned them into weapons. The final mission, storming Valentina's secret facility, serves as their trial by fire. Every member faces their past. Ghost confronts her instability, Yelena faces her Red Room trauma, Bucky faces Hydra's ghosts, and Red Guardian confronts his obsolescence. Together they prove that broken people can still stand tall. The sequence is explosive yet emotional, culminating in a symbolic moment where Yelena plants the Thunderbolts insignia on the destroyed facility's ruins, declaring, "We don't follow orders anymore." Their formation, unlike the Avengers, doesn't end in celebration. There's no triumphant music, no glory, just quiet acceptance. As they walk away from the ruins, battered but alive, Bucky says, "We're not a team." Yelena smiles faintly and replies, "Then we'll have to become one." Then we'll have to become one. The transformation of the Thunderbolts from villains to heroes is one of the most captivating arcs in Marvel's cinematic history. Unlike the Avengers, who were built on a foundation of hope, unity, and heroism, the Thunderbolts are born out of manipulation, guilt, and redemption. Each member of this unconventional team carries a dark past, a history of choices that once caused pain, destruction, or loss. Yet within Thunderbolts 2025, the audience witnesses how these flawed individuals begin to shift, seeking something beyond vengeance or control, a chance at meaning, purpose, and forgiveness. The movie begins by exploring their fractured identities. Yelena Belova, trained as a Black Widow assassin, still grapples with the trauma of her past missions and the emptiness that followed Natasha Romanoff's sacrifice. She doesn't see herself as a hero. She's just trying to make sense of a world that has constantly used her. Red Guardian, the aging Soviet super soldier, carries pride and insecurity in equal measure. His need to prove himself to the world, to show that he's not a relic of a forgotten era, drives him toward the Thunderbolts' mission. Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, adds emotional depth, haunted by his time under Hydra's control, his every move a silent atonement for the lives he once took. At the start, the Thunderbolts are merely a task force assembled by Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, the manipulative government operative who sees them as disposable weapons. They are not fighting for justice. They're fighting to clean up someone else's mess. However, as the story unfolds, the team begins to realize that their unity is worth more than the mission's objective. Through shared pain and mutual understanding, they find in one another the reflection of their own brokenness. That bond is what triggers the transformation, the shift from mercenaries to protectors. The film's narrative is careful not to glorify their past actions. Instead, it highlights the inner struggle each character faces while trying to redefine who they are. In one of the most powerful sequences, Bucky confronts a mission target who reminds him of an innocent man he killed during his Hydra days. This encounter doesn't end in violence, it ends in empathy. For the first time, Bucky spares someone not because it's strategic, but because it's right. Similarly, Yelena's confrontation with her own guilt, through a mission involving the Red Room's remnants, forces her to confront the monster she once was. Her decision to save innocent lives, despite risking her own, marks her rebirth as a true hero. The Thunderbolts' transformation also occurs collectively. Their teamwork evolves from reluctant cooperation to genuine trust. In early missions, their lack of coordination leads to chaos, betrayal, and near-death experiences. But through those failures, they start to rely on one another's strengths. Red Guardian's brute strength complements Yelena's agility, Ghost's stealth balances Taskmaster's combat precision, and Bucky's leadership ties them all together. Their growth as a team mirrors their emotional evolution, proof that heroes are not born perfect. They're shaped by the willingness to rise after every fall. One of the central themes of this transformation is redemption without validation. Unlike the Avengers, who often received praise and public recognition, the Thunderbolts operate in the shadows. Their victories are unsung, their sacrifices unseen. Yet they continue to fight not for applause but for redemption. The movie uses this to challenge the audience's definition of heroism, suggesting that perhaps the truest heroes are the ones who fight their battles. Away from the spotlight, the Thunder film's climax encapsulates this transformation beautifully. In the final act, the Thunderbolts must choose between completing Valentina's mission, one that would secure their freedom, or defying her orders to save a city from destruction. Their choice to protect innocent lives, even at the cost of their own safety, symbolizes their ultimate evolution. When Yelena rallies the team with the words, "We've been used enough. Now we choose who we are," it becomes a declaration of identity, a statement that they have transcended the roles assigned to them. Visually, the movie reinforces this theme through color and tone. Early scenes are drenched in muted, cold hues, symbolizing their moral ambiguity and emotional distance. As their transformation progresses, warmer tones and natural lighting begin to emerge, reflecting their growing humanity and hope. The cinematography mirrors their emotional journey, showing that redemption is not an instant transformation, but a gradual illumination of the soul. The soundtrack also plays a crucial role in shaping their emotional transition. Melancholic undertones in the first act slowly evolve into heroic crescendos by the film's conclusion. The music doesn't celebrate their triumphs. It mourns their pain while acknowledging their courage to rise again. Every note feels earned, echoing the sentiment that redemption isn't granted. It's fought for. Marvel's decision to craft a team of anti-heroes rather than traditional saviors adds depth to the MCU narrative. The Thunderbolts' transformation challenges viewers to see beyond black and white morality. Heroes can have blood on their hands and villains can find grace through sacrifice. It's a message of resilience and hope. A reminder that even in a world filled with mistakes, people can change. By the end of Thunderbolts 2025, the team stands united, not as villains seeking redemption, but as imperfect heroes who have learned to forgive themselves. They may never erase their past, but they've proven that identity isn't defined by where you come from, but by who you choose to become. Their transformation embodies the heart of Marvel's storytelling. That greatness often emerges not from purity, but from the courage to confront one's darkness and still choose light. Still choose light. The formation of the Thunderbolts is far from an act of heroism. It is a calculated maneuver orchestrated by powerful government forces operating behind closed doors. From the very first scene of Thunderbolts 2025, it becomes clear that this team of anti-heroes is not a natural alliance born of mutual trust, but a government-engineered experiment in control, manipulation, and plausible deniability. Unlike the Avengers, who were formed to protect Earth under transparency and unity, the Thunderbolts exist in the shadows, tools forged by political ambition and secrecy. At the center of this intricate web lies Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, a cunning and enigmatic strategist whose motives remain cloaked in ambiguity. As the government's secret architect, she builds the Thunderbolts not out of a desire to save the world, but to control it. Her vision is pragmatic, not moral. She understands the power vacuum left by the Avengers' disbandment and sees an opportunity to fill that gap with a controllable, expendable force. Every member she recruits, Yelena Belova, Bucky Barnes, Red Guardian, Taskmaster, Ghost, and others, serves a specific purpose in her grand design. To Valentina, they are not heroes or villains. They are assets, chosen for their skills, their trauma, and their susceptibility to control. The government's hidden hand is revealed gradually throughout the film. Early on, the audience witnesses meetings between Valentina and military officials, where terms like containment, deniability, and asset management replace any sense of heroism or moral clarity. These moments expose the unsettling reality that the Thunderbolts' missions are often designed to clean up the very messes created by those in power. Whether it's suppressing evidence, recovering experimental weapons, or silencing rogue operatives, the team operates in morally gray zones, doing the government's dirty work while believing they're earning redemption. Marvel masterfully uses this storyline to critique real-world political manipulation. The film mirrors the ways in which governments often exploit trauma and patriotism to achieve hidden agendas. Red Guardian's loyalty to his country, Bucky's search for peace, and Yelena's desire for freedom all become levers that Valentina pulls to keep them compliant. Her power lies not in threats, but in understanding their weaknesses. She doesn't chain them. She offers them purpose, a cruel but effective form of control. In one particularly tense scene, Yelena confronts Valentina after discovering that their latest mission involved eliminating witnesses to a secret weapons test rather than stopping a terrorist attack. Her voice trembles with rage as she asks, "How many lives does redemption cost?" Valentina's calm response, "As many as it takes to keep the world spinning," perfectly encapsulates the government's philosophy. To them, morality is negotiable. Stability is not. The cinematography and tone shift dramatically in these sequences. Sterile government offices lined with flags and fluorescent lights contrast sharply with the chaotic battlegrounds where the Thunderbolts operate. It's a visual metaphor for hypocrisy, the clean hands giving orders while the dirty work is done elsewhere. Even the camera framing subtly reinforces the imbalance of power. Valentina and her associates are often filmed from below, exuding dominance and control, while the Thunderbolts are shown through handheld, chaotic angles, emphasizing their lack of agency and the instability of their moral footing. As the plot deepens, internal tension grows within the team. Bucky, ever skeptical of authority after his experiences with Hydra, begins to sense that they're being used. His instincts prove correct when he uncovers classified documents, revealing that the Thunderbolts' missions are part of a covert program known as Project Resolution, a plan to weaponize enhanced individuals as geopolitical deterrents. The revelation sparks one of the movie's most explosive confrontations, not on the battlefield but in the war room. This confrontation becomes the film's moral turning point. When the team realizes they've been pawns in a larger game, they're faced with an impossible choice: continue serving a corrupt system or rebel against the very institution that holds their fates. Yelena argues for defiance, Red Guardian insists on loyalty, and Bucky demands truth. Their division reflects the broader theme of control versus conscience, a recurring motif in the Marvel Universe, but one that Thunderbolts explores with raw intensity. Valentina, ever the puppet master, anticipates their rebellion and manipulates them further by leaking false intelligence to turn them against each other. Her strategy nearly succeeds, leading to a sequence of betrayal, mistrust, and violence within the team. The government's influence becomes a poison, infecting every relationship and decision. It's not until the near destruction of a city, caused by one of Valentina's covert experiments, that the Thunderbolts finally break free from her grasp. In the film's third act, the hidden hand of the government is laid bare. Valentina's secret operation is exposed to the world through leaked footage, and the public learns that their supposed heroes were being used as instruments of political manipulation. The revelation sends shockwaves across global media and forces the Thunderbolts into hiding. Yet paradoxically, it's this betrayal that liberates them. Stripped of government backing and public approval, they finally become what they were always meant to be, free agents of their own destiny. The film's writing ensures that Valentina doesn't become a one-dimensional villain. Instead, she embodies the cold rationality of institutional power. Her motivations are understandable, even logical. In her mind, the Thunderbolts' existence prevents chaos, and her manipulation is justified by the greater good. She believes the world needs control, not freedom, an ideology that makes her both terrifying and tragically believable. Through the government's manipulation of the Thunderbolts, the movie explores deeper philosophical questions about power and morality. Can true heroism exist within a system built on control and secrecy? Are the Thunderbolts responsible for their actions if they're being used as tools? And perhaps most importantly, what happens when those tools learn to think for themselves? The ending subtly hints that Valentina's reach may extend even further than revealed. In a mid-credits scene, she is seen meeting with another shadowy figure, potentially signaling alliances that could tie into Captain America, Brave New World, or the next Avengers installment. Her smirk as she watches news reports of the Thunderbolts' defiance suggests that even in defeat, she's still 10 steps ahead. The government's hand may be hidden, but it's far from gone. Ultimately, Thunderbolts 2025 turns the notion of government-sanctioned heroism on its head. It exposes the uncomfortable truth that power often corrupts even the most righteous intentions. The Thunderbolts' journey from puppets to free agents is a metaphor for liberation from systemic manipulation, a cinematic reminder that true freedom doesn't come from orders, but from choice. One of the most exhilarating aspects of Thunderbolts 2025 is its breathtaking blend of raw, realistic combat and massive, high-stakes action sequences. Unlike the glossy, high-powered battles of the Avengers films, Thunderbolts brings audiences a darker, grittier, and more grounded tone that feels both cinematic and emotionally authentic. Every punch, every explosion, and every moment of silence between chaos carries weight, emotion, and meaning. It's not just about spectacle, it's about survival, purpose, and the scars left behind by violence. From the very beginning, director Jake Schreier establishes a visual language that separates Thunderbolts from the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The action isn't choreographed to look clean or flashy. It's visceral, unpredictable, and brutally human. Each fight feels like it could end at any moment with real consequences. The camera stays close to the characters, moving with them through claustrophobic spaces, shattered glass, and explosions that ripple with dust and smoke rather than neon sparks. This realism grounds the fantastical elements in something tangible, making every battle pulse with adrenaline. The first major set piece, a covert extraction mission gone wrong, sets the tone. Taking place in the ruins of a bombed Eastern European facility, the sequence unfolds in dim light and debris-filled corridors. Yelena Belova leads the charge, using her assassin agility and tactical smarts to navigate the chaos, while Bucky Barnes provides grounded, hand-to-hand combat that blends his Winter Soldier precision with years of soldierly instinct. The choreography here is stunningly physical. No exaggerated acrobatics, just pure, efficient brutality. Every move has a purpose, every blow tells a story. What makes these fights stand out is the emotional subtext beneath the action. The Thunderbolts aren't superheroes saving the day. They're haunted warriors trying to survive missions that constantly test their loyalty and humanity. In one particularly harrowing scene, Ghost phases through walls to infiltrate an enemy base only to have her phasing malfunction mid-fight. The resulting struggle between life and death isn't played for spectacle. It's portrayed with panic and desperation, forcing her teammates to make split-second moral decisions. That kind of vulnerability humanizes the violence. It's not about power, it's about fragility. The realism in Thunderbolts also comes from its grounded weaponry and combat style. There are no excessive energy blasts or cosmic powers dominating the screen. Instead, the action relies on military tactics, urban warfare, and physical endurance. Red Guardian wields his shield like a tank, smashing through walls and absorbing bullets with sheer willpower. Yelena uses stealth and environment-based improvisation, turning wires, blades, and even discarded armor into tools of survival. Meanwhile, Taskmaster's fighting style remains one of the movie's highlights. Her ability to mimic her opponents makes each of her duels a psychological battle as much as a physical one. Every fight with Taskmaster feels like a mirror being held up to the hero, forcing them to confront their own tactics, habits, and weaknesses. Midway through the film, one of the standout sequences unfolds on the streets of Prague. The Thunderbolts are ambushed by rogue mercenaries who once worked for Valentina's secret program. The battle erupts across narrow alleyways, collapsing rooftops, and a crowded metro station. The chaos feels almost documentary-like, with handheld camera work, long takes, and muffled sound effects that simulate the disorientation of combat. When Yelena dives through the shattered glass roof of a train to rescue Ghost, the moment feels raw and earned, not choreographed heroism, but a desperate attempt to survive and protect. Another highlight is the film's climactic third-act battle, a colossal confrontation in a decommissioned missile silo. The setting, filled with vertical space and industrial machinery, creates a unique battleground unlike anything seen before in the MCU. Instead of large-scale destruction, the focus is on close-quarters combat and tactical teamwork. The Thunderbolts fight their way through swarms of armored drones and corrupted super soldiers in a sequence that's as much about endurance as it is about strength. The camera never pulls too far back. The viewer is right there with the characters, feeling every explosion shake the steel catwalks, every breath fog the cold air. But what truly elevates the film's action is its emotional realism. Each sequence is built around character arcs, not just physical choreography. For example, when Bucky faces off against a super soldier prototype designed using his own DNA, it becomes a deeply symbolic moment. He's literally fighting his past, his guilt, and his trauma. The fight is messy, unglamorous, and painful, yet it ends with Bucky showing mercy, walking away instead of delivering a final blow. That restraint defines the tone of Thunderbolts. Violence is not glorified, it's endured. The filmmakers also made a deliberate effort to make every environment feel authentic. Real locations were used wherever possible, blending practical effects with minimal CGI. Explosions feel heavy, debris falls with physics-based realism, and stunt work dominates the frame. This approach gives Thunderbolts an almost Bourne Identity-like aesthetic, mixed with Marvel's cinematic scale. Every battle feels like something that could actually happen, if super soldiers and enhanced assassins existed in the real world. Sound design plays a massive role in enhancing that immersion. Instead of the thunderous, stylized booms of traditional superhero battles, Thunderbolts uses sharp, grounded effects, the hiss of bullets cutting through air, the echo of boots on metal, the crunch of fists on armor. Even the silences between fights are deafening, filled with the sound of labored breathing, dripping water, and distant alarms. It's in those moments of quiet aftermath that the audience feels the true cost of combat, the exhaustion, the moral ambiguity, and the lingering trauma. Cinematically, the choreography team and stunt directors drew inspiration from military training and real-world tactical units. The Thunderbolts move like an elite strike force, coordinating formations, covering angles, and communicating through hand signals. These details add authenticity and make every skirmish feel like a living, breathing operation. Yelena's quick maneuvers, Bucky's combat discipline, and Ghost's hit-and-run tactics complement each other, creating action that's as strategic as it is explosive. The action sequences also serve as visual storytelling tools for the team's evolution. In the early missions, their disjointed coordination leads to chaos. They fight individually, each relying on their own instincts. But as the story progresses, their movements become more synchronized, showing their growth as a team. The audience doesn't need dialogue to understand this. It's evident in the rhythm of the action itself. The way Yelena covers Bucky, or how Red Guardian shields Ghost from debris, conveys loyalty and trust built through shared struggle. The final moments of combat in Thunderbolts encapsulate everything the film stands for. In the climactic showdown, as the team faces overwhelming odds, there's no triumphant orchestral swell. Just silence, heavy breathing, and determination. The battle feels almost spiritual, as if every character is fighting not for victory but for redemption. When the dust settles, the Thunderbolts aren't victorious in the traditional sense. They're battered, bloodied, and broken. But they've earned something far more powerful than glory: self-respect. In essence, the action in Thunderbolts 2025 isn't just thrilling, it's purposeful. It reflects the inner turmoil of its characters and the brutal reality of their world. Every sequence builds on the themes of survival, identity, and redemption. The film redefines what Marvel action can be, less about spectacle, more about substance. It reminds viewers that sometimes the most powerful battles aren't against external enemies, but against the ghosts that live within. At the heart of Thunderbolts 2025 lies something far more profound than its high-octane action or political intrigue: the emotional core that binds its characters together. The Thunderbolts are not a team forged out of hope or shared ideals. They are a collection of broken souls, each carrying emotional wounds too deep to hide. Yet as the story unfolds, their shared pain becomes the foundation for something unexpected: connection, trust, and even love in the face of despair. This emotional chemistry turns Thunderbolts from a dark superhero thriller into one of Marvel's most human stories. From the beginning, every member of the team is emotionally fractured. Yelena Belova struggles with survivor's guilt after the death of her sister, Natasha Romanoff. Her every decision is driven by a desire to live up to Natasha's legacy. Even when that burden weighs her down, Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, remains trapped in the echoes of his violent past, questioning whether he deserves peace. Red Guardian masks his insecurity and sense of obsolescence with arrogance and humor, while Ghost is isolated by her condition, forever intangible, both physically and emotionally. Taskmaster, meanwhile, battles identity itself, haunted by memories that are not entirely her own. Initially, their interactions are cold and transactional. The team doesn't function like the Avengers, who operate on trust and unity. Instead, every member of the Thunderbolts watches the other with suspicion, waiting for betrayal. They've all been used before by governments, organizations, and people they trusted. That shared history of manipulation makes emotional vulnerability nearly impossible, but as their missions grow deadlier, their walls begin to crumble. The film's turning point comes during a quiet scene around a campfire, hidden deep in enemy territory after a mission goes wrong. Yelena and Bucky share an uncharacteristically honest conversation. She admits that every time she looks at him, she sees someone who has been used by others the way she once was. Bucky replies, "We don't heal by pretending we weren't broken. We heal by choosing who we become next." It's one of the film's most moving exchanges, stripping away their facades and revealing the loneliness beneath. The moment resonates because it doesn't romanticize pain. It acknowledges it as something they must live with, not erase. These emotional bonds deepen as the story progresses. The Thunderbolts begin to function not just as comrades, but as a kind of found family. Red Guardian, once seen as comic relief, becomes the team's moral glue. Despite his bluster, he genuinely cares for his teammates, protecting them with a fatherly instinct that contrasts beautifully with his otherwise brash personality. His relationship with Yelena in particular evolves from awkward to heartfelt. She resents him for the lies he once told, but over time, she sees the remorse in his eyes. Their reconciliation scene, where he admits, "I just wanted to feel like I made something good," is heartbreaking and redemptive. Ghost's arc adds another emotional layer. Isolated for so long by her unstable phasing powers, she begins to feel human again through her connection with the team, especially with Taskmaster. Both are silent, guarded, and defined by trauma. Yet their silent understanding becomes one of the movie's most beautiful subplots. They don't need to speak much. Their empathy is conveyed through small gestures: a shared glance before a fight, a quiet nod of respect after saving each other's lives. In a film full of chaos, their relationship is a whisper of calm humanity. The bond between Bucky and Yelena becomes the emotional spine of the movie. They don't share a romantic arc, but their friendship is laced with deep emotional resonance. Both are warriors burdened by the past, yet they push each other toward healing. In one scene, after a mission leaves several innocents dead due to Valentina's deceit, Yelena breaks down in frustration. Bucky tells her, "You can't undo what's done, but you can make sure it means something." It's a powerful reflection of his own journey from a tool of destruction to a man reclaiming his soul. The film doesn't shy away from showing how trauma bonds can also cause friction. Their shared pain often leads to clashes, moments where guilt, anger, and mistrust boil over. In one intense argument, Ghost accuses the team of treating her like a liability, while Bucky retorts that trust has to be earned. These scenes add emotional realism. The Thunderbolts aren't magically healed by friendship. Their connection is messy, imperfect, and constantly tested. But it's precisely that imperfection that makes their eventual unity so powerful. Music and cinematography amplify the emotional bonds beautifully. During quieter scenes, the score transitions from somber strings to warm, melodic undertones, symbolizing the gradual opening of their hearts. The lighting shifts from cold blues and grays to softer amber hues as the team grows closer, visual cues that mirror their emotional warmth. The film's pacing allows space for reflection, giving audiences time to breathe between battles and witness the subtle evolution of relationships. The most poignant moment of emotional unity comes in the third act, when the team must choose between following Valentina's orders or saving innocent lives. This decision isn't made out of strategy, it's made out of love. When Ghost risks her life to phase through an unstable reactor to prevent a catastrophic explosion, every member rallies behind her. Yelena's scream of "We don't leave our own" echoes across the chaos, a moment that defines the true meaning of family for these broken heroes. Their unity in that instant transcends politics, vengeance, and redemption. It becomes pure, selfless connection. In the aftermath of the final battle, the Thunderbolts share one last moment together, battered but alive. There are no speeches or grand celebrations, just quiet acknowledgement. Bucky looks around at his teammates and simply says, "We're not heroes, but we're all that's left." That line encapsulates the movie's emotional heart. They may never be celebrated, but they've found something more valuable than glory: each other. Marvel's choice to focus on the emotional complexity of these characters elevates Thunderbolts 2025 beyond a standard superhero ensemble film. The relationships feel lived in, born from shared trauma rather than scripted camaraderie. Each bond tells a story of redemption, not just from external enemies, but from the emotional prisons they've built inside themselves. By the end, the Thunderbolts aren't just a team. They're a symbol of hope for anyone who's ever felt broken, misunderstood, or discarded. Their unity isn't about perfection. It's about acceptance. In their pain, they find strength. In their flaws, they find purpose. And in each other, they finally find home. Just when Thunderbolts 2025 reaches what seems like a fragile balance between chaos and unity, Marvel delivers one of its most shocking and emotionally charged twists: the betrayal that redefines everything the team thought they knew. The Thunderbolts, who finally began to trust each other, discover that one of their own, or perhaps their very leader, has been manipulating them from the start. This moment not only flips the story's direction, but also exposes the moral grayness that defines the entire film. From the beginning, there are hints that something isn't right. Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, is charming, persuasive, and always 2 steps ahead. Her motives seem to align with patriotism and global stability, but her methods reveal a disturbing ambition. She talks about saving the world from itself, yet her actions suggest she's playing a much larger, darker game. Through subtle dialogue and coded orders, she builds trust while keeping the team in the dark about the true purpose of their missions. The betrayal begins to take shape when the team uncovers inconsistencies in their assignments. During one mission, they're ordered to retrieve a dangerous piece of alien technology allegedly stolen by rogue agents. But when Yelena hacks into the encrypted database, she discovers something chilling. The device was never stolen. It was secretly developed by Valentina's own division. Every mission they've completed so far was part of a calculated plan to eliminate political rivals and secure powerful assets for Valentina's personal network. The revelation shatters the fragile trust within the team. Bucky is the first to connect the dots, realizing they've been acting as government-sponsored assassins under the illusion of heroism. Red Guardian, who has spent the entire film craving legitimacy as a hero, feels humiliated and furious. "We were never the good guys, were we?" he growls in one of the movie's most emotional scenes. The sense of betrayal runs deep, not just toward Valentina, but toward themselves. They've become the very thing they once fought against. The emotional impact of this twist is devastating because it hits where it hurts most, their search for redemption. Every member of the Thunderbolts joined the team hoping for a second chance, a chance to rewrite their past. But now they realize their redemption was just another illusion, crafted by someone who saw them as disposable tools. Yelena, who always distrusted authority, feels particularly violated. Her anger boils over in a confrontation with Valentina, where she shouts, "You used my sister's death to make me your weapon." The tension in that scene is electric, capturing the depth of her emotional breakdown. But Valentina isn't the only one hiding something. As the movie builds toward its climax, another layer of betrayal unfolds, one that hits even closer to home. Taskmaster, who has remained quiet and detached throughout the film, is revealed to have been secretly reporting back to Valentina. Her programming, partially reactivated without her knowledge, allowed Valentina to monitor every move the team made. The revelation turns the group against her in an explosive confrontation. Taskmaster, horrified by what she's done, breaks down, insisting she was unaware of the manipulation. The moment humanizes her in a way audiences have never seen before, torn between guilt and the desperate need for forgiveness. The film's tone shifts dramatically after this point. What was once a team of reluctant allies becomes a fractured group haunted by mistrust. Bucky, who has spent his life being used by others, takes the betrayal hardest. He retreats into silence, haunted by the realization that history has repeated itself. Ghost, usually reserved, is the one who confronts him, reminding him that they still have a choice. We can keep being used, or we can finally choose who we fight for. That line becomes a rallying cry for the film's final act. The visual storytelling during this twist is remarkable. The lighting turns colder, with scenes drenched in gray and blue tones symbolizing the erosion of trust. The score transitions from tense orchestral beats to slow, almost funereal strings, emphasizing the emotional fallout. Director Jake Schreier uses close-up shots to capture the pain on each character's face, the disbelief, the rage, and the deep sense of loss. The betrayal culminates in a breathtaking sequence inside Valentina's secret command base. As the Thunderbolts confront her, she reveals her true goal: to create a world order where heroes are no longer needed, where power belongs to those who control it, not those who earn it. Her plan involves using the alien technology to manipulate global conflicts, ensuring she always controls the outcome. In a chilling monologue, she says, "Peace isn't profitable. Control is." The confrontation explodes into an all-out battle. Thunderbolts versus Valentina's loyal operatives, including enhanced agents and drones programmed with stolen Avengers combat data. Amid the chaos, Taskmaster redeems herself by turning against Valentina, destroying the surveillance system she unknowingly helped build. Her act of sacrifice finally earns her forgiveness, even from those who doubted her. The final blow of betrayal lands when Valentina triggers a self-destruct protocol, leaving the team trapped. Red Guardian, wounded but defiant, refuses to retreat, declaring, "We finish what she started, but on our terms." The team barely escapes as the facility collapses, marking a fiery, symbolic end to the lies that held them captive. In the aftermath, the Thunderbolts emerge not as heroes but as survivors of manipulation. Their faith in institutions is gone, but their loyalty to each other, tempered by betrayal, is stronger than ever. Bucky sums it up in a powerful closing line. "They thought they could use us. Now we decide what we're worth." It's a defining statement that encapsulates their transformation from pawns into self-made warriors. This betrayal twist is not just a plot device, it's the emotional engine that drives Thunderbolts 2025 into darker, more mature territory. It challenges the very definition of heroism and asks whether redemption can still exist in a world built on deceit. By exposing corruption within its own ranks, Marvel delivers a gut punch of realism rarely seen in its cinematic universe. By the end, the audience is left questioning everything. Who can truly be trusted? Is redemption ever genuine or just another illusion crafted by those in power? Thunderbolts doesn't offer easy answers, and that's precisely what makes it unforgettable. The Red Room has haunted the Marvel Cinematic Universe for over a decade, a shadowy organization that forged assassins, broke minds, and erased identities. In Thunderbolts 2025, the ghosts of the Red Room return with a vengeance, weaving themselves into the movie's emotional and narrative fabric. This isn't just a callback to Black Widow. It's a reckoning. The film delves deep into how the Red Room's legacy continues to poison those it once controlled, including Yelena Belova, Taskmaster, and even the mysterious figures behind the Thunderbolts program itself. From the very beginning of the movie, subtle visual cues hint at the Red Room's lingering influence. The film opens with a flashback to Yelena's training days, shot in the same sterile, emotionless corridors audiences remember from Black Widow. The difference now is tone. Older, colder, and more tragic. The once proud institution lies in ruins, but its ideology survives through those who benefited from its manipulation. The Red Room, as Thunderbolts shows, was never just a building. It was an idea. A belief that control can replace conscience, that power justifies trauma. Yelena's story takes center stage in this chapter of the film. Still haunted by memories of her family and the years stolen from her, she finds herself forced to face not just the Red Room's past, but its modern incarnation. When Valentina sends the Thunderbolts on a mission to capture a rogue scientist selling black market tech, Yelena immediately recognizes the insignia on the weapons crate, a faded red emblem of the original Red Room. Her reaction is visceral, a moment of paralyzing fear mixed with rage. She realizes instantly that they're not chasing a new threat. They're hunting the ghosts of their own creation. The mission leads the team to an underground facility in Eastern Europe, where they discover that fragments of the Red Room program have been resurrected by a secret coalition of ex-spy masters and military financiers. These remnants are using Red Room data and old conditioning protocols to create a new generation of perfect soldiers. Unlike the widows of the past, these operatives are fully cybernetic, stripped not only of emotion but of humanity itself. The revelation hits Yelena hard, forcing her to confront a nightmare she thought she had buried forever. The emotional depth in these scenes is incredible. When Yelena walks through the laboratory, she sees the familiar apparatus used to train young girls, mirrors, ballet shoes, and brainwashing screens, now twisted into something even worse. It's not just nostalgia. It's trauma. The camera lingers on her reflection as she whispers, "They're still making monsters." That single line encapsulates her entire journey. The struggle to prove she's more than what the Red Room made her. Taskmaster's connection to the Red Room is equally tragic. Her relationship with Yelena evolves from tense rivalry to reluctant sisterhood as they both realize how deeply their lives were shaped by the same system. Taskmaster, or Antonia Dreykov, carries the literal scars of the Red Room, her body rebuilt after being used as a weapon. In one emotional exchange, she tells Yelena, "They took away my pain and called it mercy." That line cuts deep, summarizing how trauma was rebranded as strength in their world. But Thunderbolts doesn't stop there. The real twist comes when Valentina's involvement with the Red Room is revealed. Through a hidden dossier discovered by Ghost, the team learns that Valentina was one of the Red Room's original financiers. Her connections go far beyond intelligence operations. She helped modernize its psychological manipulation techniques and later adapted them into her Thunderbolts recruitment strategy. Suddenly, everything the team has experienced, the missions, the emotional conditioning, the constant surveillance, feels like an evolved version of Red Room control. This revelation changes everything for the Thunderbolts. What they thought was a government-approved redemption program turns out to be another layer of manipulation, one that mimics the very trauma it claimed to heal. Bucky recognizes the pattern immediately. Another system built on exploitation. "Different cage," he mutters grimly. "Same lock." It's a moment of chilling clarity that ties his experience as the Winter Soldier directly to the widow's suffering. The film brilliantly parallels these personal stories with external conflict. The Thunderbolts' mission to dismantle the Red Room's remnants culminates in an intense action sequence inside a decaying Soviet-era compound. The set design mirrors the psychological decay of the characters. Rusted steel, flickering lights, and ghostly echoes of the past. As the team battles enhanced soldiers created from the Red Room's data, Yelena confronts the new matron, a woman who claims to have perfected Dreykov's vision. Their fight isn't just physical, it's ideological. The matron taunts Yelena with words that cut to her core. "You think you escaped the Red Room? You are the Red Room." The line encapsulates one of the film's deepest themes, That trauma doesn't disappear just because you destroy the system that caused it. Yelena's victory over the matron is not just about defeating an enemy, but reclaiming her identity. She fights brutally without hesitation, but her final move is symbolic. Instead of killing her opponent, she smashes the neural conditioning console, freeing the captive soldiers. "No one else gets to be me," she declares, marking her evolution from victim to liberator. Taskmaster also has her own moment of redemption in this sequence. When she sees the new generation of controlled operatives, she flashes back to her own enslavement. Overcome by guilt, she sacrifices herself to disable the base's power grid, ensuring the destruction of the entire facility. Her selfless act cements her as one of the film's most tragic heroes, a symbol of what it means to break free, even at the cost of your life. Cinematically, the Red Room sequences are some of the most hauntingly beautiful in Thunderbolts. The lighting alternates between red and white, symbolizing the constant battle between control and freedom. The soundtrack mixes Russian lullabies with dark electronic undertones, evoking a sense of loss and nostalgia. It's as if the ghosts of the past are singing farewell as the team burns down their origins once and for all. In the aftermath of the battle, Yelena and Bucky stand in the ruins of the compound. The smoke and ashes symbolize closure but also uncertainty. "We didn't just destroy a building," Yelena says quietly. "We destroyed the part of us they made." Bucky responds with a rare smile. "Then maybe now we get to build something real." It's a rare moment of peace in a film filled with chaos, a suggestion that healing, though painful, is possible. The Red Room storyline in Thunderbolts 2025 ties together years of MCU lore and personal trauma. It's not just an action subplot, it's the emotional backbone that explains why these characters are the way they are. By connecting the Thunderbolts' mission to the ghosts of their past, the movie gives meaning to their pain and transforms their journey into something larger, a collective exorcism of the systems that broke them. By the end, the Red Room's legacy is finally buried but not forgotten. Its memory lingers in the hearts of those it shaped, reminding them of how far they've come. In one of the film's final lines, Yelena sums up the entire emotional arc. "They made us weapons. We chose to be something else. Be something else." As Thunderbolts 2025 reaches its explosive conclusion, it's clear that the movie isn't just a standalone story. It's a massive setup for the next chapter of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU. What makes it so significant isn't only its thrilling action or complex characters, but how it redefines the direction of Marvel's storytelling moving forward. The film acts as a bridge between the grounded espionage world of Black Widow and the Falcon, and the Winter Soldier, and the larger cosmic conflicts that will dominate Marvel's upcoming phases. Through its characters, its post-credit scenes, and its central themes of morality and control, Thunderbolts opens the door to a darker, more politically charged MCU. From the outset, Marvel Studios made it clear that Thunderbolts was never going to be a typical team-up movie. It's not about shining heroes. It's about the broken, the manipulated, and the morally gray. That concept alone marks a tonal shift that sets the stage for future projects like Captain America, Brave New World, Armor Wars, and even Avengers: Secret Wars. The events of Thunderbolts ripple outward, creating political, technological, and emotional consequences that will affect the MCU's landscape for years to come. The first major setup comes through Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. By the film's end, her plans have been exposed, but her network remains operational. The movie reveals that Valentina was not acting entirely alone. She answers to a shadowy council known only as the Directive, a clandestine organization with influence stretching across governments, corporations, and even off-world operations. This shadow group is clearly the MCU's answer to the Dark Reign storyline from Marvel Comics, in which morally compromised leaders form their own version of the Avengers. The Directive's existence hints at the rise of a global power structure that will challenge the ideals of Captain America and SWRD. The Directive's involvement sets up potential future villains and anti-heroes. Characters like Norman Osborn, Justin Hammer, or even Sharon Carter, the power broker, could be tied to this secretive organization. The film subtly plants these seeds through dialogue and holographic cameos during Valentina's communication scenes. Fans who pay close attention notice names redacted from classified documents, names that comic readers will instantly recognize. This world-building technique makes Thunderbolts feel not like an ending, but a beginning. Another key setup involves the fractured state of global politics. After the events of Thunderbolts, the world becomes increasingly distrustful of superheroes. Leaked footage of the team's morally questionable mission sparks public outrage, leading to a new superhuman registration initiative being debated at the United Nations. This mirrors the Civil War storyline, but on a broader scale. The world no longer sees heroes as saviors. They see them as threats that need control. This lays the groundwork for a world divided, one that could easily set the stage for Avengers, secret wars, where different factions of heroes might clash over ideology, loyalty, and survival. In the emotional aftermath, Bucky Barnes's journey provides another major thread for future development. Having been betrayed yet again by authority figures, Bucky is finally free of manipulation, but also directionless. His final conversation with Yelena hints at what's to come. When she asks him what he'll do next, he responds, "Find out who's really pulling the strings." That line directly sets up Captain America, Brave New World, where Bucky is rumored to appear alongside Sam Wilson to confront new geopolitical threats. It also hints at Bucky's transformation from a soldier to a strategist, someone who will operate from the shadows, not as a hero but as a guardian of truth. Yelena Belova's arc also sets up several future possibilities. By the end of the movie, she emerges as a leader, not by choice but by necessity. Her moral evolution throughout Thunderbolts positions her as the spiritual successor to Natasha Romanoff. The post-credits scene shows her being approached by Clint Barton, Hawkeye, who offers her a new mission involving the potential recruitment of younger operatives. This scene hints directly at the formation of the Young Avengers or New Avengers team, showing how the next generation of heroes will rise from the chaos left behind by the Thunderbolts. Meanwhile, Ghost's character subtly ties into the technological future of the MCU. Her phasing abilities, which were enhanced and stabilized through Valentina's intervention, make her a valuable asset in upcoming conflicts involving quantum technology. The film's closing moments show her walking away from the team with a drive containing stolen PIM data, information that could directly connect her to Ant-Man's world or even the quantum realm itself. This could be Marvel's way of linking the Thunderbolts to multiversal science, bridging the gap between grounded espionage and cosmic-scale events. Red Guardian's journey provides emotional and symbolic setup for the MCU's shifting tone. He begins the film as comic relief but ends as a symbol of lost patriotism. His disillusionment with government institutions mirrors the themes seen in Captain America, the Winter Soldier. That absolute loyalty can lead to absolute corruption. His last words, "Maybe the world doesn't need heroes. Maybe it needs the truth," could become a defining motto for the next phase, reflecting a world where truth and control are at war. Another brilliant layer of setup lies in the film's ending battle. When the Thunderbolts destroy Valentina's secret facility, the blast releases a pulse of alien energy, the same energy signature associated with the Celestials and the Eternals. Scientists in the MCU later referred to it as phase energy. The post-credits scene reveals a mysterious figure studying this energy from space, a man with glowing eyes and a faint metallic arm, strongly hinting at the return of the Sentry, one of Marvel's most powerful and unstable heroes. His arrival could lead directly into a storyline involving Dark Avengers or Siege, both of which revolve around power, identity, and manipulation, themes deeply rooted in Thunderbolts. Marvel also uses Thunderbolts to reset audience expectations. Gone are the days when the MCU was purely about good versus evil. The line is now blurred beyond recognition. The movie forces viewers to question whether redemption is even possible in a world ruled by hidden agendas. This philosophical shift paves the way for darker, more character-driven projects. Films like Blade, Daredevil, Born Again, and Captain America. Brave New World will continue exploring the underbelly of heroism, where every choice has a cost and every victory leaves a scar. Thematically, Thunderbolts also prepares the MCU for the concept of moral multiverses, while earlier phases focused on the physical multiverse alternate worlds and timelines. This film introduces the idea of moral dimensions, worlds defined by different ethical codes, where the same person can be a hero or a villain depending on circumstance. This could tie directly into Secret Wars, where multiple versions of Earth and their champions collide in a moral and physical battle for survival. Cinematically, Thunderbolts signals a stylistic evolution for Marvel. The movie's grounded cinematography, gritty tone, and politically charged narrative bring the MCU closer to prestige spy thrillers and away from traditional superhero bombast. This shift in tone will likely carry into future projects, giving the franchise a more mature, realistic edge. It's a conscious step away from cosmic comedy toward introspective, emotionally heavy storytelling, something that fans have long been craving. The final moments of the film beautifully encapsulate this new direction. As the surviving Thunderbolts stand in the ruins of Valentina's empire, Yelena turns to Bucky and says, "We can't fix the world, but maybe we can stop it from breaking again." The camera pans out to reveal a horizon torn between sunrise and smoke, a visual metaphor for Marvel's next phase. Hope emerging from chaos. In the last shot before the credits, a hidden drone records the Thunderbolts' departure. Its feed uploads to a secure server marked with a familiar symbol, a coiled serpent surrounding the letters HYDRA 2.0. It's subtle, but unmistakable. The Hydra legacy, once thought destroyed, is quietly rising again, rebranded and reborn. That single image confirms that Thunderbolts 2025 isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a much darker phase where shadows rule and heroes are no longer pure. In essence, Thunderbolts doesn't just close one chapter of the MCU, it lights the fuse for the next. It sets up Dark Avengers, Secret Wars, Brave New World, and possibly even Young Avengers. It's Marvel's declaration that the future belongs not to gods and legends, but to the flawed, the scarred, and the morally uncertain. The world is changing, and the Thunderbolts are the ones holding the match.